Okay, so we're going to jump straight into it. And before I show you how I profit on Bitcoin going down, I want to take a minute and say, if you're buying Bitcoin or even Ethereum, the traditional way, where you're just going into Robinhood and buying the crypto, or you're just going into Coinbase and buying the crypto, you may want to reconsider, because you limit yourself of different strategies that you can do to shield yourself in the event of Bitcoin going down. So just consider that. And so what I did was, I did something called a collar. A collar is a combo strategy that gives you protection if IBIT was to go down. Let me give you an example. So let's say right now the stock over the past month is down 20%. It really got down to maybe about 28, even closer to 30% at one point. So the average person that's holding this stock or holding this crypto, they're suffering. But what a collar does is it allows you to sell a covered call and also buy a protective put. So how that works is this. If you go into the option chain and we go to sell and we go to call, I usually do my covered calls more than 30 days out. So what I would usually do is, in selecting the strike price, I will go up about maybe $4 or $5 to give me enough room. And let me pause right here and say, if you haven't checked out one of my covered call videos, please do so. But you are simply buying 100 shares. And once you buy those 100 shares, you can basically start earning cash on those 100 shares, regardless of what the price does. So let's say it's at $48 a share. If the stock price was to go up to, let's say, $53 a share, you will receive the difference between $5,300, because everything trades in hundreds, and $4,800. So you'll receive an extra $500 on the stock going up in price. In addition to that, you will also receive over here, which is your premium, you will receive $152 on top of your $500. So that's how a covered call works. Now we know that the stock price went down, so you will not receive money on the shares going up in value, but what you will receive regardless is your premium. So I would receive this $152, and I did it when the stock price was a little higher. So the higher the stock price is, the more premium you receive on a stock. So I might have received about $200 on the covered call. But let me show you the second part on how you capitalize even more, which is on the protective put. So if you was to select buy and then put, now on the put, instead of going 30 days out, I usually go about 60 days out for the expiration date. And so how this differs from selling the covered call is, under the ask price, these are your different premiums. For the covered call, you're receiving money to wait until this expiration date. So you're on the receiving end. But when you're buying the protective put, this money is what you're spending. And you're spending this money because you're essentially making a bet. You're making a bet that the stock is going to move down in value. And so when the stock moves down in value, your put goes up in value. So for illustration purposes, let's say if you was to select this $5 put. And remember, with options, everything trades in 100. So you're putting up $500, 5 times 100. You're spending $500, and what you're saying is, I think IBIT is going to go down. So if you was to go into this option under the Greeks, you have the delta. The delta tells you how your option is going to trade. So this 0.47 means that for every dollar that the stock goes down, your option is going to move 47% on that dollar. So let's say if the IBIT stock price goes from $48 a share to $47 a share, that means the option is going to move up 47%, or $47. So your $500 will go up to about $547. It's not exact, but just so you understand the concept, the option is moving inverse of the stock price. And so you can imagine over the course of this month, with the stock going down about 20%, how much this protective put was going up in price. And when you combine that with the covered call, you're making money from both ends, even while the stock price is going down. Another thing I wanted to point out, that I told you why I go 60 days out, is because under the Greeks, there's also something called theta. Theta, when you think of theta, it means time decay. So every option has time decay. The shorter the option is to the strike or to the expiration date, the more the theta jumps in value, because the whole purpose of options, it wants to get to $0 by the day of the option. So if we was to, let's say we was to buy a put by next week, it may be cheap to buy the put. So let's say it may only be $100 to buy the put, but that $100 is going to decrease $20 every single day by the end of the week. That $20 a day is going to be under theta. So that's how it works with theta. And remember, with options, there's always a buyer and there's always a seller. So when you're buying the put, you're basically buying the put, but you're spending an extra $3 a day for this option. As opposed to the seller, remember that when you're doing the covered call, you're selling an option. So the selling a covered call, you also have theta too. The only difference is the buyer is paying you the $3 a day instead of you paying the $3 a day. And so with the expiration date on the covered call, I only went 30 days out because under theta, I was receiving $5 a day, even though on this protective put, I'm paying $3 a day. So that spread always keeps me in the positive. And so when you're looking at these Greeks, the two ones you want to familiarize yourself with is the delta and the theta, because those are going to help you structure your options the easiest. They all mean something, but these are the two that's the most important. I dive a little deeper into it in my one-on-one coaching, but this is why I say you need to take advantage of these Bitcoin ETFs like IBIT, because it gives you the ability to earn income on the asset even while the asset is experiencing volatility and going down the way that we're going down. And hey, I'm in these same assets as well. You know, I'm holding Bitcoin through IBIT, so I'm experiencing that pain with Bitcoin going down, but that pain is softened with the cash that I'm receiving from the options. And it doesn't just stop at Bitcoin. You can do the same exact thing on Ethereum. The ETF for that is, I believe it's Ether. So Ether, it trades just like Ethereum, you know, but the difference is that with Ethereum, the price is even cheaper. Not only is the price cheaper, but the premiums you receive for selling the options are even larger. I don't just trade Ethereum, I also trade Bitmine, which is something that moves similar to Ethereum, but just at a faster pace. And so I trade them all. And just to give you an example of some of the ones, the premiums I receive, I just made a note of a few of them. So this is BMNR, which is an abbreviation for Bitmine. This is all within the same week. $366, $200, $205 on IBIT. You know, so the collar is just a magnificent way to earn income on both ends. And what you can do with that extra cash is just either put it back into the asset, or you can put it inside other stocks or ETFs or whatever you see fit. And it keeps you from making impulse decisions because you know you're having money coming in another way. So I hope this video brought you some value. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you're doing any similar strategies and how you're going about this market. And I'll see you guys in the next video.